Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV. This is normally where Joe Healy would chime in, but he is out on assignment in the heartland of America. So with fall camp in full swing, we got to bring in a ringer. Somebody's going to be here in a couple weeks. And so as we put him on the record for yet again for our season preview episode, but right now we're going to talk all things week one fall camp. Jordan Hamm, Sports 360 AZ, the great Jordan. Thank you for coming on, especially on a relative short notice. Thanks for coming on. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Like we were saying before we just hopped on, it's we're not sure what day it is. We are in the throes of fall camp, but we've watched a lot of football the past week, plenty to come, and getting up north next weekend. So it's a good time of year here to be covering the Devils.
Yes, especially since I think when we're going to be up in Payson, it's going to be like 118 down here. So great time. Love it.
Yes.
All right. So before we dive into kind of a position by position look, the one piece of news that came out, and I have to put maybe news in quotes or something. The coaches poll has come out earlier today. I believe the AP poll is coming out next Monday, but right now the coaches poll is front and center. The Devils are number 11 there. Kenny had a nice little kind of flippant remark when asked about that after practice today. But Jordan, first off, what value do you put in the coaches poll at all? Or at least relative to the AP, and also, what do you think about number 11? It's a good spot for the Devils.
Yeah, for ASU, it's we're number 1 plus another 1 there. And with all these preseason polls, the way I take it, and even like the preseason all conference teams, it's typically the team that has the most familiarity or the most known most known products on a given team, and they ended the year very strongly, obviously, playing in the college football playoff. And so it's not a surprise that they're in that ballpark of top 10, top 15. But we know how quickly all of that can change and how quickly a season can get turned upside down. So I think for a group that through the first week has done a pretty good job working hard, staying focused, like I have a feeling that the coaches kind of view this as a potential distraction or just one thing that can just be like, hey, we don't need a feather in the cap. Let's just keep working. Let's stay focused on NAU and everything beyond that.
And it's always interesting, like the coaches poll, because I always kind of put stock in the AP poll. Now, even though that has some problems in its own right, but the coaches poll, and you keep putting coaches in quotes, because how many of those coaches are actually filling out that ballot right there? But where do you expect maybe the AP poll, once you get perhaps or presumably some maybe more informed voters, folks who are supposed to cover the sport, kind of at large?
Yeah, I think in the same zip code, like I said, maybe they'll be a touch higher. I could see them around 13, but you get enough voices in this and enough opinions and enough biases, whether that's intentional or not. It's a nice kind of slight measuring stick, but it's not the end all be all. But I think probably right around there is where I would put them. Where would you put them?
Yeah, I'm thinking like 13, 14, just because I think the coaches might just been a bit or whoever the coaches are filling out their belt, the SIDs at various schools. They might just, like, oh, they're 7 last year. They lost scat, bumping down a couple spots. I don't know. I think that there's been so much buzz in the media as a whole for like the K-States, the Texas Techs. I don't know. I still think they'll probably be top 15. If they're outside the top 15, that would be like, I would be very shocked. But yeah, I think like 13's fair. Like the 9 to 13 range wouldn't surprise me. If they're in the top 10, great. I don't expect it, but yeah, I think the low teens is probably a good spot for them.
Where do you think what number could they be where all of a sudden it flips and it's ignore it, and then it turns into disrespect? Like what do you think that number is where all of a sudden the coaches are like, hey, we might be able to use this as some motivation?
If the first number is a 2, if people are just like, oh, like, because like so much of the national narrative seems to be, oh, scat's gone. Like so all of a sudden like big time question marks in Tempe, despite the fact like 87% of the overall production's coming back.
Right. So. Yeah. I think that's probably a fair assessment. And if there are any ASU detractors, that seems to be the argument, is like, well, your whole offense is walking out. And it's like, you pay a little bit of attention of retention, not only on the roster, but with the coaching staff like that. I think they can probably survive that. So, but yeah, it's certainly fun fodder for a podcast, but for those putting too much weight in it or going the disrespect card or whatever it is, it's like, please get us to football season so we can just, see how this all shakes out on the field.
Yeah, I'm still very much on the team, like no poll or rankings until like week 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like get like a few weeks under the belt so we actually have tangible. Well, Florida State was started last year, 9-10 before their
and that
went
went sideways quick.
All right, enough about the polls. Let's talk about real, actual football. Let's start down at quarterback. Far less drama now this year than last year when we had the quarterback competition in full swing. Before we kind of maybe dive into the other names on the depth chart, what have you seen now from Sam Levit through 5 fall camp practices? Coming in, I was the unquestioned starter, Heisman hype buzzing around nationally, a whole host of weapons at his disposal. What have you seen from him from the first week?
Yeah, it's as advertised, and it took every ounce of me after the first practice not to just ask Kenny. So when's QB1 going to be decided? Just to see what he had to say. But Sam has had a very busy offseason. He's done a lot of media. He's the Heisman train is certainly rolling, but so much of that is going to depend on what he's able to do on the field. And he's taken pretty good care of the football. He has found his favorite target in Jordyn Tyson for some crazy catches, and it's spreading the ball around. We can only take so much from it, even in the 11-on-11s. But the thing that has kind of jumped out to me is, now they have a new kind of like Ramada area for about the halfway point of the outside session for practices, where they can get a quick break, kind of simulate not a full halftime, but a slightly simulated halftime, like kind of just a nice reset for the guys to get in shade, get a quick drink and get out of there. Oftentimes Sam is either outside with Marcus Arroyo, talking about what they're about to do, what they just did, or he is the first one out of the tent. And I think just those small little details just show you, yes, we already knew he was a good leader, but it's just like, I'm going to be the pace car here, guys. Like, everybody just line up behind me and I got this. So it's just those little moments that you see from Sam, from some of these leaders that has really stuck out to me so far in at least week 1.
Yeah, I've noticed a few times that whether it's just when the quarterbacks are throwing routes to receivers, no defense present or whatever, that sometimes he'll come over to a receiver and kind of diagram or discuss the play. There was one instance, I think it was like second or third practice of fall, where they were doing fades and it was throwing to Jordan, and I guess there was some in there. And so, but yeah, just seeing those things that we did not see that initial spring, and just it kind of comes with the comfort of growing into a leadership role. Overall, he's still having a good time out there. It looks like he's having fun. He's spreading the ball around a little bit more. I think he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with the other weapons around him and getting that ball around. Obviously, there's no like drama as to who's going to be taking that first snap. But in terms of the number 2 guy on that depth chart, I think ASU obviously is very fortunate to have a guy with the experience of Jeff Sims. And overall, though, I think Jeff's been throwing a pretty nice ball. His mistakes compared to this time last year, I thought are way down. And it's good to see him kind of thrive. And some people were maybe a little surprised that he came back, knowing that obviously he's going to be the number 2. But I think it's such a luxury for ASU to have a guy like that in the QB2 spot.
I want to do a deep dive whenever we get a second here in fall camp, and I know that that's kind of few and far between in fall camp, but I have a hard time thinking that there's a more experienced backup in college football, or at least big level college football. And Jeff, like you said, like seeing the jump from this time last year at camp, this was kind of the week that things started to separate between Sam and Jeff. And then you watch him in spring ball, and he had a good spring, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It seems like he's even elevated just a couple steps more in fall camp. And that might just be more comfortability with Marcus Arroyo's system, just being comfortable, maybe knowing that he is the backup. He doesn't need to be perfect, but he can just go be him in practice. But it definitely is a luxury to have a backup that has played a lot of games. And look, even in the Cincinnati game that he played in last year, I wouldn't call it a bad game from him.
Yeah.
Yes, like it wasn't as smooth, but it felt like there were a lot of things slightly out of sync with ASU that in that particular game. But the time he went in against Utah and the time in Cincinnati, like he can certainly orchestrate this offense if need be. So I think in terms of having him as your number two and seemingly being happy in that role, I think is very, very crucial to this offensive success. If something does go awry with Sam Levit and he happens to get injured throughout the year.
As Joe and I have talked about on the show, really the only drama here is like the QB3 spot. And really, if you're getting down to your third quarterback for a prolonged period of time, your season's going to go sideways, unless the guy's name's like Cardell Jones or something. For the Devils now, you got Christian Hunt taking a lot of snaps. It seems like Butter Tollefson, who's getting kind of in that mix a little bit in spring. I don't believe has seen any team reps or maybe sparingly at best. One of the probably most interesting things is that Cam Dyer, who is coming off the knee injury, the everything Mr. New Mexico high school football, he's been getting some team reps, and I thought he's throwing a pretty good ball.
Yeah, it's great to see him moving around, especially in the stadium practice that they had where they were doing kind of some, I don't want to call it agility, but definitely some footwork and a lot of shuffling back and forth. And it seemed like he wasn't really missing a beat. Yes, he has a massive leg brace on him, but he was really moving around. And you think, gosh, this was about 8 months since major knee surgery. Like he's in a really good spot. So not only that, I think it was beneficial for him to be there for spring ball, even though he wasn't doing a ton physically, at least on the field. Just being around the guys, learning the system, probably still, I'm sure Coach Connolly got very creative in the weight room where he was still able to, get conditioned or work other parts of his body. But I think it was really important for him to be there and just get comfortable. And you're starting to see some of that come to fruition, in terms of a long-term QB prospect and development.
All right, so moving on to running back, probably the biggest question marks on this side of the ball. What's going to happen with the Sun Devil offense without Cam Scadaboo? And I always all offseason kind of using the money ball thing. We don't necessarily have to replace the production just kind of in the aggregate. And I think ASU is pretty well positioned when they have like three guys at the top of that depth chart, and Kyson Brown, Raleek Brown, and Kanye Udo. And earlier today, I thought it was just an outstanding showing for the run game. All three of the backs had multiple big-time runs. Raleek probably the biggest play of the day, that like 60-ish yard touchdown run where he got to the right sideline, just outran the entire defense. Kyson Brown's been, I thought, really impressive so far in camp. And Kanye Udo is like the last 2-3 days he's had, whether it's out of the backfield as a receiver or just some runs, showing off some wheels and some agility. How do you rank the running back competition so far through 5 practices?
Yeah, I still think that it's Kyson's backfield right now, or at least his number one spot to lose. He's done nothing to show me that he is not capable or had any concern about him being in there. And even those first couple practices, it felt almost like, okay, Kyson might be pulling away a little bit. And like you said, kind of starting Friday, Kanye starts, busting out some long runs and had a couple nice runs in the stadium. And, you saw some of that, I think, just that veteran experience all of a sudden kind of click in a little bit, and you're starting to see the offense take shape. And then, Raleek, I feel like, is kind of a different beast in terms of this conversation, because I don't think he's necessarily going to be a guy that's like, okay, go give us 25, 30 carries, but like, we're going to get you on the field and get you the ball in creative ways, whether those are handoff, tosses, reverses, out as a receiver, maybe even in the punt or kick return game. So I think they're looking at him almost like a Swiss Army knife of just like, you are an athlete on the field. How can we get you the ball? So it almost feels like we're kind of comparing two somewhat similar backs and then something that's completely different, but they're all going to be sharing time in the back of or in that backfield. So I think it's one of those things where it's just going to be a little bit of a Rubik's cube, but it's nice to see, if you're an ASU fan, all three of those guys making the decision tough of like, hey, Kanye Udo's making it hard for him to pull, or hard for Marcus Arroyo to pull him off the field. Kyson Brown has certainly done that, and you're seeing what Raleek Brown can do as well. So they are definitely putting their best foot forward in terms of this competition.
Yeah, that's well put. I really agree with that. Raleek, if he can stay healthy, we've seen him be used in some creative ways already in the team sessions, and moving around the field in different spots as well. I think Kyson has the makings of a 1,000-yard back, with just his ability to run with power, get out there in space and run with beat defenders with speed, be effective as a pass catcher. And then you got Kanye Udo kind of coming around. I thought, in spring, a little stiff, and just kind of getting his feel for the offense after coming from Army. But it's a good problem to have, and ultimately, it's one of those years where it's just like, is this going to be where we see
ASU not the year?
Yeah, like where one guy's not taking 70-80% of the carries, and every year I sit down with Sean Aguano and what do you think? What do you? Oh, we'll just see what happens. And earlier this year, I asked him the same question, and he says that he's going early in fall camp. He looks to kind of give multiple guys some looks, and then see if there's one guy that can pull away. But as of right now, it seems like all three guys are making a strong case. So, and Kenny even mentioned, I believe, after practice a day or two ago, that this could be a situation where all three get used. I mean, what do you think the chances are we see, three guys having regular or somewhat regular usage rates?
I think it's going to be the greatest chance we've seen since probably Sean Aguano has gotten to Tempe. And I think a big part of that is you have a mind in Kenny Dillingham, Marcus Arroyo, a stable quarterback, and a good returning offensive line, where it isn't quite just like, okay, this is the only hot hand going. Where, in terms of Scadaboo, it was, yes, he was taking over games even in that first year, which was a different level compared to what he was able to do in 2024. It still felt like whoever that backup was, it was still pretty clear cut who the one was. Right now, it's a 1A, 1B, 1C type deal. So if there's continuing to be production, don't tell me that Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Arroyo aren't stoked about that, about getting creative and saying, look, let's watch this defense get put on their heels with how we are going to utilize these guys. And there may be plays where all three of them are out there at the same time. And, who's going to, trying to create their own type of option or, reverse or whatever it may be. So I think that this is certainly the best chance in Sean Aguano's tenure of there being that true by committee. And oftentimes, like I said, it's usually because there's not that horse in the group. I think this is the stable all of a sudden, where you have a bunch of different guys that can go out and be that guy if need be. But it's just, it's better for the entire offense if they have multiple fresh guys and the drop off isn't there.
Yeah, you mentioned like using multiple backs. When it was the Cincinnati game, and then they used it sparingly, like the split back set, where at times it was like DeCarlos and Kyson, I believe at one point early in that Cincinnati game. I'd love to see that, where you get like Kyson or Kanye, one of your more power oriented backs in the same package as Raleek, and just like, okay, DC, like, good luck. Defend that.
Right. Or the variations of the Wildcat that they could do. Because I think these are all pretty high IQ guys too, where they can pull off a read option. They can, if there's a situation where they're able to, throw it even. Like, I think that's a scenario where it won't be all of a sudden someone feels out of place or someone is going to panic. Like, these are three guys that process the game really, really quickly in this backfield.
All right, so moving on to wide receiver, it looks like the ASU's got a pretty set like top four. We've seen Jordyn Tyson and Jalen Moss running the slot, Malik McClain opposite JT on the outside, kind of running with the starters pretty much the entirety of fall camp. Jordan Hamilton has been one of the breakout stars. Yeah, coming off like a really strong like last 2 weeks of spring, and that's carried over certainly to some very explosive plays. Seems like that's like a kind of the top four as of right now. Obviously we know what Jordyn Tyson's going to bring, but what are your impressions of the other receivers? The the newcomer and Jalen Moss working out of the slot. Malik McClain flashed a little bit there. It's kind of about this time last year, we were all like seeing him in fall camp as he finally got a little bit of a late start and just was lighting up that Sun Devil defense. And then, of course, Jordan Hamilton. Yeah, how do you feel the top the other three guys in that top group are showing? What are they showing you so far?
I need to give credit where credit's due. At the end of our spring ball session, like roundtable that we did, I said Malik McClain showed those flashes, but they could really unlock the offense if he was able to be more consistent. 1 week in, I feel like we've seen that consistency, and we've seen that there's, I don't know if it's focus. I don't know if it's just getting comfortable. Like he kind of had to rush into fall camp and never really felt like he was able to catch his stride. And that's why they redshirted him very wisely. And now he's had a full off season. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it does feel like we've seen a more consistent version of Malik McClain on the field. Again, 1 week in, but I have that was something that I noticed. So definitely wanted to give credit to him. And then in terms of Jalen Moss and Jordan Hamilton, like they are making it really tough for them to get taken off the field at certain points. And Hamilton certainly, I think, pops a little bit more in terms of the flash and the big plays but every time I look up and number 18 is doing something, it's just like, it almost looks boring, like how consistent he's been and how he's just doing everything technically sound. And just, you hear the instruction from Hines Ward and it's just like, yep, got it, coach. Here you go. Here's a 12-yard pickup. Here's an 8-yard pickup. Here's this, here's that. And I've just heard from some of the coaches, just, the great feel for the game that he has. So we're about to talk about the tight ends, and that's a deep group. We're about to talk about the wide receivers, and that's a deep group. We just talked about the running backs. It's like, how do we make all of these skill positions get on the field at once? And how's that going to look for these ASU coaches? So it's been very, very consistent in practice. And look, we talk about it every camp. There are guys that pop. There are guys that look really good. And it's like, oh, look out for this player. And come regular season, and then just through a kind of attrition or whatever it may be, things kind of settle out, and a couple guys start to pop and some fall back, and I'm sure that's going to happen at some point. But right now it's just like, you really need to bring it every single day if you're an ASU wide receiver, if you want to try to find the field here this season.
Yeah, Jalen Moss lived up to his name earlier today in the one-on-ones. I literally, like, Moss, I forget I won't say the DB's name, but it was a really impressive catch. So, but yeah, like the really good slot receivers, the guys that just consistently don't have to worry about them. Yeah, just always making those catches, not necessarily the big flash, but are consistently moving the chains each and every time. It's 3rd and 6, okay, they get 8. 3rd and 12, they get 15. Just they find that way to do that, and it looks like Jalen Moss is obviously coming in with a pretty good experience with over 100 catches in his FBS career. ASU's got a pretty good situation there. And the slot, talking about some of the guys further down on that depth chart, in slots, specifically Derek Eusebio, Zechariah Sample. I know we've talked about him at camp, a couple of times, really explosive. But, other guys, Harry Hassman, who Kenny praised today, coming off in, a very strong spring, which the true freshman really just was consistently making plays and been running with the twos, still making plays. Noble Johnson's had some good moments, probably the best blocker maybe out of that wide receiver group. Some drops issues that are persisting as well. Some other freshmen and Corey Butler and Uriah Nellums that have been really good further down that depth chart. Do you see any of that group, making a push to maybe crack and challenge that top 4 for some important reps this year?
It's not a Jordan Hamm appearance on Speak of the Devils if I'm not banging the drum for Zach Sample, because he's just, every time I look up, he's making a play. And it's interesting because a lot of times, at least in individual drills, typically the starter or like the most experienced guy will go first. And I don't know if this is Jordyn Tyson taking the step back as the leader, or Zach taking the step forward as the young guy trying to, crack through. But it's usually Zechariah Sample who's the first one, at least at certain times, going through that rep. And I just find that interesting. And I don't know if that, like I said, I don't know the dynamic necessarily. It's something I definitely want to pursue, especially once we get up to Camp T and can talk to the guys again. But he just has this level of explosiveness, and like, it feels like he's doing everything right. But maybe he just doesn't have as much experience as some of these other guys. So I don't know if that he makes an appearance in the special teams. We'll probably talk more about that a little bit later. But the reason he isn't on the field, I feel like, is not because of his output in practice or his effort in practice. He's been doing a really nice job. And then Corey Butler's another guy that has just been as advertised ever since he committed from Corona Centennial. And you heard he was sure-handed and consistent, very, very smart. Like a 4.5 GPA or something like that coming out of high school. And he just feels very like him and Hines Ward together are just like the attention to detail guys. And you can see him going through every little bit of his route and every little bit of watching the ball all the way in. That he really stands out to me as one of those young players that is just very, very technically sound and has been well coached in his career.
Yeah, I talked to Zechariah after practice today and kind of asked him what he wanted to show this coaching staff, and like immediately was that I'm trustworthy. So it's kind of interesting, and he spoke a little bit at length about his maturity and his growth. So it seems like the redshirt freshman, obviously his explosiveness. He mentioned that he's now topping consistently 23 miles per hour. So the speed and the explosiveness is on display. We've seen him make he's good at high pointing the ball. He had a great toe tap in the back of the end zone today. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how he gets there. Obviously, a veteran like Jalen Moss is hard to unseat, but you got to figure there's got to be a role there. You mentioned special teams with somebody with that explosiveness for him to get some reps. But it's also he's a young guy and he's got 4 years or a few more years of eligibility. So we'll see exactly how the rest of camp pans out. But you mentioned it a little bit ago, the depth at tight end. And should we talk about maybe not lead off with the all Big 12 returner or the former 4-star SEC transfer, but are you ready to talk about the Harpinator?
Let's do it. I mean, this guy, the way Cameron Harpole has transformed his body, the past couple months, certainly from spring ball and even the end of last year, has really stood out. And it's funny, you talk to Jason Mons, you talk to anybody in that group about the group itself, and Harpole's one of the first ones they bring up
every time.
And there's a lot of excitement about Kamari Anderson coming in, Shimon Mateer, as you said, coming off a great year, AJ Ia, a lot of excitement. But I think Harpole is just one of those guys that does the little things that may not show up in the box score necessarily. His stats won't pop. But I think he's really important to what they do in the run game. He's really important to that room, to that culture, to what's happening in the weight room. And guys certainly recognize that. And it's cool to see that they're just so readily available or, so eager to point that out to somebody if you do mention the room without necessarily mentioning Harpole.
Yeah, he had like 7-8 catches or so today in the team sessions. And yeah, just his growth as a receiver kind of flashed to me a little bit in spring where it's just like, okay, we expect Mateer to be the dude. And then it was our first look at the athleticism that Anderson brings, but it was the Harpole in spring. And then it's really, just stuck out. And yeah, Kenny raved about him today. But, Mateer I thought has been pretty solid. But I think, also, talking about not talking about the Harpinator, just like Kamari Anderson looks like he can be a problem for defenses. His athleticism, his speed, his body control. He's made several catches, kind of showing good, like along the sidelines. It's just like, this is a really good problem. Now, even like AJ Ia, they have that luxury of, a 4-star tight end. You don't need to throw him in there. And he's had I think he's had some freshman moments here or there in fall camp, but still like the tangibles, the size, everything just jump off the page. But to have the luxury to not have to necessarily throw him in necessarily before he's ready because you have a top 3 like that, man, the ASU's tight ends could be cooking this year.
And I think it needs to be recognized, Shimon Mateer's leadership in that room, because he's coming off a great year. Mm-hmm. He's not getting every first team rep necessarily in practice. And that could shake out the deeper we get into fall where he's clearly the one. but Kamari Anderson's getting some reps at 1. Cameron Harpole's getting some reps at 1. But you talk to him about it, and it's like, this is sick. Like, this is great. Like, this is great for the offense. You think that if there are 2 of us on the field, they're going to be able to block it? Where I think some guys, their egos could get in the way a little bit and say, well, what the heck? Why is this new guy like jumping ahead of me? Or like, hello, all Big 12, what the heck? He's really embraced that. And, you know, even in the media availabilities before we got going with fall camp, we were talking, and he mentioned how the Peach Bowl he feels was the worst game of his season, and that it took him a long time to watch that film. It made him sick to his stomach when he would try to watch the film. And it was actually Coach Mons that was like, hey, you're the leader of the room. Like, you're going to grow from this. So like, you don't need to be so hard on yourself. Like, it's okay. So if you're going to be the leader, go be the leader. And I think Shamon's really embracing that. And you're seeing that growth. Yes, he had a great year. And you feel like he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. So I think there's a ton to like, not only about the players that Coach Mons has brought in the last calendar year or so, but also the people and the dynamics. And that's why it's easy to get excited about this group and this team, because you see that, at least publicly, the egos aren't really there, or the negative side of egos aren't really there. And there's leadership like Shamon coming in and being like, heck yes, Kamari, go get some catches, because that's going to open things up for me too.
Another group that really is likes ASU's tight ends are NFL scouts.
Yes.
A few practices ago, there were 6 teams in attendance, and they're all 6 of them were like huddled around Jason Mons for a good long time at practice. Today, I believe, 11 scouts from 10 teams overall, including the Steelers, thankfully, were out there scouting. And all of them, once we moved inside the bubble, were talking to Coach Mons. Several of them were jotting down, taking, looked like pretty detailed notes. And like, he just looked top to bottom. Like that, I think that just speaks volumes. And then next year you got, Hayden Bircher and Landon Myrie coming in. Like this could be like the start of a little bit of a lineage here.
Totally. And that's the thing. You think back to, past eras of Sun Devil football and some of the great tight ends. And, sometimes it wasn't just the one guy, it was a group, and it was a next in line. And that is certainly what is, I think, happening with Coach Mons. And it's not just the receiving tight ends. It's for the most part, these are pretty all-encompassing tight ends that will embrace the blocking side of things, or just stylistically he'll be able to find kind of wrinkles to help exploit some matchups. So it's certainly a good problem to have for Jason Mons, trying to figure out how to get all these guys on the field and how to properly get them the proper touches that they deserve.
All right, moving on to the offensive line. It looks like they pretty much settled on their starting 5. I think we've seen the same group each and every day with the ones. Of course, with the luxury of 4 starters back, although you're Ben Coleman, of course, kicking from left guard to center. So you have Josh Atkins, left tackle, Jameta Obibo, the Texas State transfer, seems to be locking down that left guard spot. Coleman at center, and then the returning right side of Kyle Scott and Maxi Hanachor. I thought, it's kind of a little bit hard to tell before they go full pads. The last couple of days have been in shoulder pads, and we saw the success, perhaps not coincidentally, of the run game in recent days. But, if that is indeed the starting 5 that ASU goes to war with to start the year, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, you certainly have to feel good about it in terms of the experience, not only of them individually, but them working together as a unit. And even, yes, Ben Coleman's in a new position, but they know what Ben Coleman's all about. And, if there's a guy that could have a similar leadership impact that Lee Fatanu did on this group, I feel like it's Ben Coleman. Mm-hmm. So yes, there probably were some transitional pains, and that'll certainly probably continue as we get into games. But having that familiarity and that versatility for Ben, I think is really important. For me with this group, and it doesn't matter necessarily who's there. Every year it's going to be about the depth for me. Mm-hmm. And relatively, ASU along the offensive line was relatively healthy last year. The year prior, We saw what happens when that isn't the case. It was the, both sides of the pendulum swinging. It's probably going to swing a little bit more towards the middle where there might be some injuries. Some guys might miss time. So what's that next group look like? And what's, the guys who may not have logged a ton of time in game, but have certainly been recruited by Coach Saga and this ASU staff overall. How ready are they for this next group? The Helton twins that transferred in, where are they able to help out? Because this is as we've talked about a lot, this is a really physical conference. And football, you're just going to have injuries. And you're not going to have 2024 level or lack thereof of injury that ASU had. So you need to be prepared. And I think they've certainly, you watch this group. We don't see them come off the bus, but you see them come off the golf carts and you see them, go through some of their drills. And it's like, okay, there is a ton of size here. But what are some of the growing pains that you can try to iron out, but really it's only game experience that's going to, help with that. So those were kind of the broad strokes that I'm looking at in terms of offensive line of this group in particular.
I think we'll learn a lot about the depth. So going forward, especially with this week and Payson, the full pads. But as of right now, it looks like Jalen Clement and Champ Westbrooks are going to be kind of the first tackles off the bench there. And you mentioned the Helton twins have been kind of moving in on the interior. Maybe Makula Pule looks like he might have an edge at the backup center over Sean Na'a. I think Terrell Kim could be a very interesting piece here. Kai Stewart was here in spring, the really large true freshman. We'll see the depth, but any guys outside that starting five that maybe have caught your eye and kind of pre full pad practice?
Yeah, Terrell Kim has caught my eye in terms of practice, but also the physical transformation he's made. He's lost in the range of 70, maybe even more pounds since getting to ASU. And a lot of it is, getting rid of some of that bad weight, adding on muscle. It was, you see him kind of walk around where I noticed it was when ASU would host their like high school 7-on-7s and players would be helping out, but they'd just be in like a t-shirt. And it's like, oh, like this guy has really, he looks more like a statue now, like, got the big shoulders and everything that comes with that, but it's not, he's lost the baby face a little bit, just with the transformation he's been able to make. So credit again, Coach Joe Connolly with the work that he's been able to do, and Terrell putting that work in. It's just incredible to see that jump sometimes from a freshman to sophomore, or, things just kind of click here early on in the guy's college career where all of a sudden the physical transformation is there. And then they're really moving in a much different way than they have in high school.
All right. So switching over now to the other side of the trenches on the D line, a whole lot of familiar faces. Pretty much everybody not named Jeff Clark and JP Dieter came back. And obviously one of the big question marks heading about this defense, one of the few, but a prominent one, was how the pass rush is going to step up their game. I believe they had just 27 sacks or so a season ago. Dyron Reynolds has been very adamant about wanting a better result in pressuring the quarterback. And obviously you have a couple cornerstone guys, Clayton Smith, just named to the Bruce Feldman freaks list. But of course, great depth. You have Justin Watley, who's now trimmed down a little bit. Now it looks like he's almost going to be playing after being a versatile guy. Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neal, but then of course the stalwart in the center and CJ Fight. Jacob Kangaika has he's down to 290 or so, looking pretty swift. Had a bunch of run stops today. Zach Swanson yet to get going as he's coming back from a foot injury, but should be ready to go by season. Overall, how do you make up about take a look at this defensive line group in terms of just obviously very good against the run, but and a lot of familiar faces. But do you think they can get a better result this year facing a pretty good slate of quarterbacks?
Yeah, the pass rush and at least the sack numbers, I don't have like the in-depth analytics. It felt like they still generated a decent pass rush. They just didn't get to the quarterback, didn't have those sacks, didn't have those big loss of gains in terms of the pass game. It kind of reminds me of the 2023 season, how ASU just didn't force a turnover until like game 6. of the season, but they were like right there. The defense played well. It just didn't quite click. The turnovers happened in 2024, but the sacks didn't happen. So is that just keep doing what you're doing with the progression, with all those returners that you mentioned? They'll generate the pass rush and just get to the quarterback quicker. Is it Clayton Smith is a touch faster from last year? Or is it schematically you need to change it and maybe bring in more guys, or you have a little bit more depth now on the edges so you can cycle through guys quicker and they're fresher and maybe they can beat those tackles throughout the game. So I'm okay in this regard of kind of the wait and see what this looks like, because it's not like the defensive line had a bad season or there were a ton of shortcomings. It was just kind of, the defense certainly still worked, but it's like, if you can get those sacks, all of a sudden it's over the top. And so is it just one of those things you play 12 games a certain way and then you play that exact same slate of 12 games and you have 8 more sacks? It very well could be. And I think you have the talent there and the experience there to try to generate that. But that is certainly a big question. And if, the secondary takes a step back, all of a sudden now that pass rush is pretty important. But it was kind of a symbiotic relationship where the pass rush worked well. The defensive line was great, especially against the run. And the secondary played very, very well throughout the entire year. So you were able to kind of, that shortcoming of not having as many sacks wasn't that massive of a deal. But if there's a regression elsewhere, all of a sudden that might become more of a focus or become more of a glaring issue with this defense.
We'll certainly see how they ratchet things up here in the coming weeks. But it's kind of like forecasting a little bit in the future. Obviously, so many of these guys are in their last years as a Sun Devil. Who are some of the youngsters that you think are maybe planting their flag a little bit early in the coaching staff? I mean, you have youngsters like the Albert Smiths of the world, Roman Petrie could be in that mix, Ramar Williams. Who are some of the young D linemen, if any, that have really kind of caught your eye and like, okay, maybe the future's in good hands here?
Albert Smith had a really good spring. And it was either spring or end of last year. It honestly all, as you know, it kind of blurs together. And I know this is a guy that you're a big fan of. What Roman Petrie brings to this defensive line physically is a rarity in terms of size and athleticism. And it feels like some of those young receivers we were talking about, where it's just like, who are you going to take snaps from, but you're still bringing it every single practice. So I think he could be another guy that stands out. But who stands out to you?
Yeah, so far I thought Roman had a little bit of a slow start. I was kind of went on record in our confidence rankings, like who's going to be a name to watch, and I put him out there. But I think he's been stepping up a little bit. I like to see more, because I think Albert Smith is an intriguing one. A little bit of a smaller guy, but really performed well in spring, and I like to see him get going a little bit. I've seen him here and there, but not at the level of that we saw in spring. So. I think there's some opportunity there because, it's also a little harder now in spring, where they're a little bit more apt to be experimental with lineups and rotations, and now they're dialing in a little bit, and they're just so loaded with returning faces. It's a little difficult, but I think that we'll see Petrie, especially just because he's still relatively new to the defensive line position in general. That he's just going to get more comfortable, and I think he could be a guy that kind of, could be probably amongst anybody outside of those, the Dorbos and Smiths, that he could be a guy that maybe has the best chance.
And I think one guy that I forgot to mention, and it's very small sample size on the field at this level. If you followed high school here in the state, you knew all about him, and that was Michael Gardner. This was the first little bit we've been able to see with him. And what stood out to me is he is in kind of that next group. I think he's still not quite 100%, but like physically he brings a ton. And he's not afraid to give feedback to other players or like ask questions about, hey, how are my mechanics on that? He's a very conversational, like wants everybody to kind of be on the same page. That's what stood out to me these first couple practices. And I mean, this guy was a national recruit, highly touted out of Liberty High School. So do we see him this year a lot? I'm not sure, but like in the future, I think he could be a mainstay right in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, I was in writing today's practice notebook. Just happened to notice like, I jotted his name down a few times. Gardner run stuff. So yeah, I think as he gets more comfortable, and then of course you have the luxury of having CJ Fight, Jacob Kangaika, Zach Swanson atop that D tackle depth chart. But then you have that next wave with Gardner, and maybe a younger guy like Ramar Williams can stake a claim to get his name in there and position himself for the future. So some good depth there, but we'll see exactly how it all shakes out. Moving on to linebacker. This is a position group that I had number one in top of my pre-camp confidence rankings just in general. Maybe it helps that there's only two out there at any given time, but a really good two, I think, with Keyshawn Elliott, who also was kind of like an honorable mention on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list in the Clayton Smith paragraph there. But Jordan Crook superstar breakout campaign, I think, is inbound.
Absolutely. And I was surprised with how well Crook played, especially down the stretch last year. I think he can build upon that so much. And, you talk a lot about playing time and there's only two spots and how do you manage all this? And there's so much experience and you have Zyrus there too. And what do you do? Like, this is a benefit for those guys that they can remain fresh. They can go pedal to the metal all the time. And if they need to take a play or two off, they can swap in a guy, that has a ton of college football experience in there. And, you even throw in Romney too. Like he's played so much college football. So there's just a ton of experience there. Most consistent group, like you said, in terms of like group confidence, it's kind of like they know AJ Cooper's system or like what he wants to do. So many of these guys, if they aren't on the leadership council or aren't captains, like they're honorary members because it just I feel like it just shows the consistency and the grit of that group throughout the year where they have had guys, either miss time for various reasons or, have guys step up like Caleb McCullough. They're obviously going to miss him this year, but you feel like just a room full of guys that are, when their names or numbers going to be called, they're ready to step up. And it's not just the ones necessarily, but also some of those younger guys that are really intriguing players on this roster as well.
Yeah, the Werewolves are definitely, I think, poised to make the opposing offenses really a lot of problems this year. And I don't know if Zyrus Fiaseu is having the best overall camp. He's definitely having, I think, the loudest camp because he's delivered some big time hits. And as that being like the first guy off the bench, and then a Martell Hughes who's got a year of experience now, who looks far more comfortable, smart football player, Barrett Honors college guy, and then you mentioned Tate Romney. I mean that's a really really good group, and Brian Ward told me a while back that it's year 2 in his defense when players understand the why and that they really start to take it to a next level. And then all of a sudden you look, Jordan Crook's in year 2, Keyshawn Elliott's in year 2, Zyrus Fiaseu's in year 2, Martell Hughes in year 2. And then we saw it in spring. And I just think that overall they're playing instinctively. They're playing so much faster and playing more and violently. It's just, I think, a recipe for maybe.
Yeah, and then you have a guy like Tristan Bacon, who probably in the recruiting circles probably flew a bit under the radar. And I think the coaching staff really feels like they found a guy who, was under the radar. And, I don't love the term diamond in the rough, but a guy that definitely can provide a ton of value to a roster. And he can just learn from all of these guys and develop his craft, get comfortable in this system. And then who knows what the next couple of years could look like for him. But I know that's a player that coaching staff and a lot of his teammates are excited to see what he could become in the future.
All right, moving on to corner, Keith Abney, Javen Robinson. They're still pretty good at football. They're having some good camps, and I think they're locking down. I think the real intrigue here is like, how the kind of the two deep fills out behind them. Obviously, Terrence Welch decided to do some things that got him persona non grata in Tempe. But I don't think ASU is going to miss a beat. In fact, they might be better at the cornerback 3 and 4 spots. Rodney Bimage, maybe the spring MVP, but certainly kind of picking up where he left off, despite an offside penalty on field goal block where he was about a mile offside. But man, he's been so good. He's been really good throughout spring and now early fall. And I think Nyland Green started a little slow, but he's picking it up. It looks like those two guys are in the pole position to be the
I think so. I think the spring was very beneficial. Obviously, you don't want guys to go down for injury, but Javen Robinson is very comfortable in Brian Ward's system because he came from Washington State. He's probably in year 2 of that, or actually the timing probably doesn't work out with that, but he's very comfortable with Brian Ward. I had to do math for a second. That's always a problem. But he knows what Brian Ward's all about. He doesn't necessarily, those reps would have been nice, but I don't think it would be as crucial to another player or position group. And then you just watch Bimage just take a step in. And what I loved about it, and I think I mentioned it at the end of spring, but him and Jaron Hamilton, you could argue if you want to call it MVP, you want to call it breakout star, but on their side of the football, they probably were those guys, and they were the ones going head to head, and they were the guys that loved the competition, and you could tell. And it was never a day where Jaron just flat out dominated Rodney or Rodney dominated Jaron. It was pretty back and forth. So they kind of took their licks together, but I think that raised their game a lot. And in this first week, Keith Abney's been on the receiving end of some not great clips of Jordyn Tyson touchdowns, but you look at the coverage that Keith Abney has had, and it's been incredible. Like, what else do you want the guy to do? So I think by that same token, him going up against Tyson every day, Tyson going up against him every day, like it's the iron sharpens iron mentality. And Keith is, won reps as well, and we know what he can do. So by no means is it like, oh, this is a regression. It's that Jordyn Tyson has, is really good. And guess what? Keith's going to have his day too. So yeah, this is a group I think that has taken shape pretty quickly. But talking to Brian Carrington, he's made it pretty clear, like Keith and Javen know, like their spots are not guaranteed. Like they are driven to be the best that they can be. And that's great. But also like nothing's guaranteed in this room. Yes, they're the ones and they've proven it. But like, if they ever decide to take their foot off the gas, Brian Carrington's like, we got a bunch of guys behind him that can step in. But I obviously don't think Javen and Keith will take the foot off the gas, but that's just the mentality of that room, is just playing scrappy, playing smart, and being really, really physical.
I maybe gotta ask Keith this a little bit later on this week, but just like that first game when he's going up and lining up against wide receiver 1 from Mississippi State or TCU or something, that's got to be like a huge relief that it's not Jordyn
totally.
Tyson.
100%. Like, it's like, oh, it's, you hear them or football players talk about like, we want to practice so hard that the games are like easy and fun. Like, I'm sure Saturdays are his time to have fun, because it's like, oh yeah, a much lesser wide receiver compared to Jordyn Tyson. Of course.
All right. So moving on to safety as we kind of wind down here now. As Kenny mentioned, so we can actually publicly discuss this, Xavier Alford and Ghost Rouser have missed some time. They've been at practice, but not been out there. Minor stuff, nothing to be worried about. And obviously 2 guys that are returning starters, you have that luxury there. On the flip side, that's given, I think, some others some time to shine. And Boogie Wilson's one that I thought has really kind of taken advantage of some of that time, especially since he missed all of spring after the transfer from Wazoo with some injury issues there. I think he's had a couple of a couple of interceptions so far in fall camp. I think both of the diving variety. Montana Warren, I thought, is in that nickel battle, but also since those 2 guys have been out there playing on that back line, he's looked good. He's been in kind of my daily notes, just Warren PBU, just a couple times scattered throughout. For me, Chris Johnson has looked really impressive as a redshirt freshman. I think he can factor in as well. And then of course at the nickel spot, Kendrick Breedlove is really making the advantage there. I thought even before kind of Warren seeing some time at the back end, I thought Breedlove was maybe pulling ahead in that race a little bit. So maybe this could be a situation where like Shamari Simmons wasn't heading into the year slated to be the nickel, but the retirement of I believe Mason Williams kind of forced him there at Camp T, if I'm not mistaken, is when that happened. And so then maybe we see a situation there where we have again some quality depth. You have two starters that you have full trust in, all conference first teamer and X, and then Ghost, just the headhunter out there, taking souls. But then some really good depth behind them.
And you mentioned Chris Johnson. Going back to spring ball, especially the end of spring ball, Kenny Dillingham, I think maybe one of the few players he mentioned after the spring game, because he had just done bear crawls for 100 yards. We don't need to get into that. But he was out of breath, but he was just like, Chris Johnson like kicked butt today. All right, I'm out of here. But you've seen him just get more and more comfortable as you've progressed. And yes, obviously you Ghost Rouser, X Alfred going to be pretty crucial to the defense's success. But if it truly is minor, like this is a decent time for these things to happen and get that depth, get those runs with the ones for some of these young guys that can certainly play. And if it is a situation where they are fully healthy, like this is going to be a time where for some of these young guys, like if they pinch hit, it's going to be a couple snaps, if that, at a time. So, their ability to just jump in, make plays right off the bat, I think is going to be really crucial for them.
All right. So moving on to special teams as we kind of close out there, Jesus Gomez, still pretty good, still strong leg. Looks like he hit one from about 49, 50 today. Carson Kiefer's been pretty solid. So I think the real intrigue here is the punter battle. We got Matt McKenzie, who's got some serious hang time coming over from Australia. Canyon Floyd, no slouch either. Looks like he's gotten a little bit better over the offseason. How do you see those two specialists battling it out for, arguably one of the few open jobs?
I think competition is a great thing. And I think Matt McKenzie coming in has driven Canyon Floyd. I think we were going to see a jump regardless from him from freshman to sophomore year. But I think him knowing like, I better bring it, has upped his game quite a bit. And with McKenzie, it's so funny because last year when special teams would come up, everyone would kind of stop what they're doing. And usually it was like, is this going to go well? We need to see if it's going to go well. Now I feel like they're stopping it because it's either Jesus Gomez like about to boom a 56-yard field goal, or it's like, let's go watch the battle of the punters and like who can get the highest hang or longest hang time and who can, coffin corner these and that sort of thing. So I think it's a good place to be. Last year, the special teams, I think, did very good in terms of their coverage. The return game wasn't, we'll get into that, but I think it's going to be, this is going to be the conference of chaos again. Like we just know it. So having not one, but two punters you can rely on, and maybe it's a situational thing. Maybe there's a situation where the Aussie style is more effective in this situation, and maybe having Canyon come in is crucial, in this situation. So I think having those options not only drives both of them, but also gives Charlie Regal some flexibility on who might be best in a given situation.
And then talking about the returners, we've seen like a punt returner, Malik Brown, Jalen Moss, Corey Butler get some reps as well. Some very explosive guys on this team overall. I talked to Regal recently, and he's got some. He was pretty enthused just to say that he's got some options. So I don't think we've seen too much in terms of the kick return game. Maybe at least I haven't been on that side of the facility when they've been doing it, but it looks like that. Overall, like they've got some good options at punt returner. I believe Jalen Moss has had some success at his time at Fresno State. So anybody that you would personally put out there?
We talked about him earlier, but I think Zach Sample and his explosiveness could certainly fit that well. And especially, I'm not entirely sure what the staff's viewpoint is on this, and that's something we can discuss with them at Camp T. But do they like having a guy who's going to be out consistently with the offense, be the punt returner or the kick returner, because they're locked in, because they're the most explosive player? Or would you rather have someone who may not be finding the field, is fresh, to step in, and you're not risking injury to one of your main players that are going to be out there in the wide receiver core, or as a defensive back? So that's one name. But the names you mentioned, like that and explosiveness, like they go hand in hand. And I think that's one thing that the return game and the special teams has lacked the past couple of years, and even dating prior to when Kenny came in. We haven't seen a ton of like those super explosive returns. Last year, Melquan Stovall was great because he was sure-handed and he could just catch, got it. If it's a return, it's probably a short return, but he's probably not gonna mess that up. But can you add that extra element and make the field shorter for this offense? All of a sudden that just compounds on what they're able to do, as a football team. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up going with and how that takes shape. Again, we're trying to nitpick here over 5 days, but that's an interesting group to me, of who could be that guy that's returning punts, returning kicks.
All right, so that's a rundown of the position group. So as we close out here, though, let's throw out maybe like 2-3 names each that who's really kind of caught your eye. Guys not named the Jordyn Tysons or the Sam Levits of the world. We know they're pretty good at the game of football, but here, who are some of this early week 1 standouts?
A guy that stood out to me, and it's like no surprise, he's a familiar name. He's a leader on this team. He literally put the pitchfork on his body. He got a pitchfork tattoo this offseason. But Justin Watley, it was a great luxury for him to have the versatility that he has, to bounce in, bounce out if need be. But as you mentioned, with the drop in weight, maybe he's more on the outside. If he's just focusing on that area of the game, can he compound upon that and really be that pass rusher that you want him to be? I just think physically he's come in and has been impressive. Leadership wise, he's a loud voice in that group that has a lot of personalities. But it seems like when he speaks up, everybody listens. So he's one that has certainly stood out to me in the defensive line.
All right, so I'm gonna throw out our guy Harry Hassman. Just been really impressive. Just like the quiet wide receiver. Had some really big plays in spring, and Kenny raved about him today. But just a guy that necessarily in a loaded wide receiver room that obviously Jordyn Tyson's going to take up all the oxygen in terms of the narrative about the Sun Devil wide receivers, and then so many other guys like Jordan Hamilton has been on fire all fall camp long. But Harry Hassman just could be a name, and in spring when the receivers kind of divided up between like the guys who are probably going to be on that game day roster and the other guys who are going to be destined for a Gold Scout team jersey, he was with the Tysons and the McLeans of that group. So I'm just kind of curious to see. He's off to a good start. He has the benefit of spring. So I'm curious to see where he goes over the next 3-4 weeks before the opener. Last one for you. Who's a guy that not necessarily has had a bad camp, but you'd like to see step up and maybe or take make his name a little bit more known here.
It's not necessarily one name in this group, but I have heard a lot from wide receivers and even some of the older cornerbacks. Some of these young DBs have been getting a little handsy, getting called for some consistent penalties, to the point where some of the wide receivers are running up and being like, yo, you have to stop holding. Like, we're trying to get through drills and it doesn't benefit anybody with you having causing a penalty. So I think there's that. And then I'm interested to see the steps. Again, it's early. Joshua Shanklin, the defensive lineman. I know the coaches have been trying to give feedback, let's say, throughout practice. just on where he's at. And I think just getting kind of caught up, making the jump from JUCO to Power 4. I'm interested to kind of keep track of that throughout camp to see what that looks like and how he grows as a player throughout the year.
I'm going to throw out wide receiver Noble Johnson. Delightful young man. I believe, we were in a scrum with him in spring. Very talented, former Clemson receiver. A very good blocker. I mean, he's made some good plays down there. It's just the consistency of just he's getting open. Just gotta catch the ball. Kind of like I made the Caleb Black comparison a little bit. Just because a guy that was always open in these drills for the Sun Devils just had a hard time catching the ball. I don't say that Noble's having that level of issues, but where his talent is and kind of the opportunity for like with that wide receiver 5 and below, I think some more consistency in that regard could serve him well this year, but also certainly set himself up really well and earning the confidence for the coaching staff in heading into the future. So before we wind things down, a couple of interviews we were able to snag earlier this week. First up, you'll hear from wide receiver Jordyn Tyson and then punter Matt McKenzie. All right, so when you're making those like ridiculous catches, the back shoulder one-handed, is that like an intense focus in that moment? Is it just kind of all instinctual? Like what's going through your mind in those moments?
I think like it's just instinctual. I've been playing football since I was a little kid, so I know I catch the ball, and then I just work on catching the ball one-handed. I work on catching the ball all day, so I think it's just instincts playing football.
So how did you think the team performed here in day one of fall camp?
I think offense dominated. I think defense got to pick it up because we're going to rely on them a lot this year. So, I just think defense needs to pick it up a little bit. I think offense had a good day, and we just need to continue and stack days.
What were some of the big gains you saw for yourself through the course of the offseason?
Big games?
Or big gains, I'm sorry.
Gains
and just kind of the focus of your offseason work.
Definitely my hands. That would be a big thing. I would just say like overall like power output for real, just stronger, bigger, faster, stronger. So that would be my main things.
Kenny mentioned that you added some weight, but also added some speed as well.
Yes, sir. Like 200. I ran the fastest I've ever ran this summer.
How do you feel the chemistry with Sam's developing now that you have a full season under the belt and heading into year 2?
Yeah, I think me and Sam we're just on the same wavelength. I think we just know each other like our backhand, so it's gonna just continue building that.
Looks like Jaren also is continuing. He had a strong spring and had some big catches along with you today. How do you see Jordan Hamilton fitting in that room?
I don't know. He plays Z. I play Z, so I think we're just gonna have to package it. Probably when I go to the slot, bring him in. But I don't know. He's got to keep working, get that bust down, and I think he'll be all right.
Hey Jordan, for you, so obviously getting back into the groove and obviously looking good after the injury and stuff you faced at the end of last season. What do you make of kind of your energy and your mindset coming into this season and going into the fall?
Just different. I feel like I've just been training like a pro for real, like just trying to get in that mindset early. And obviously Hines played 14 years, he knows what pro looks like, so he's just trying to ingrain that in me, doing everything right.
Anything different, like in that what you guys did from last year coming into this year that feels like maybe training more like a pro, particular to like what you were doing before?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it's just regimen, just day-to-day stuff. Going to sleep early is part of it, so like it's not just all football on-field stuff. It's a lot of stuff when you go home, like the decisions you're making. So yeah.
How are you guys like just handling the overall kind of weight of the expectations? Obviously, there's a lot of hype and buzz with you, Sam, a lot of national talk in terms of the awards and expectations for the team overall. Like, how is this team kind of handling all those external pressures?
I hope everyone's handling it well. I kind of just throw it to the side, like you ain't gonna. It's preseason stuff, like it ain't postseason stuff, like you ain't won it yet. So like, if I don't go do what I'm supposed to do, I ain't gonna win none of that. So, but I don't even care about that. I just want to win games.
What did it mean to you to get the name to the Pat Tillman Leadership Council?
That was big. I was so close last year. I think I was like the next person up by like 2 votes or something. So kind of missed it that year. I felt like I was just gonna chill, not really have my voice be heard, lead by example. But this year I feel like I can really use my voice and lead by vocally and by example.
And how does that help you guys? And obviously being an extension of Coach Ward, like leading some of these receivers. You're saying these guys, keep working but have to step up. But how does being a part of the council and just your leadership in general help their wide receivers?
Yeah, I think Hines is an amazing coach, bro. He has a standard, and I feel like it's an amazing standard, and I feel like it's the reason why we had such a successful receiver group last year in terms of blocking and catching the ball.
How does that relate for you as like your day-to-day now and having to kind of balance being on leadership council, maybe reaching out to guys more often and that kind of stuff you doing, like changing your day-to-day?
Oh yeah, just when you're in the locker room, just talking to guys, getting to know them, guys, build a relationship with them. Like Jacob behind me over here trolling, but just getting to know the guys, man, just talking to them, and then shoot with the day-to-day stuff, just keep the main thing.
And you guys have a lot of new receivers in this room, whether it's freshmen or transfer guys. So how has that been, kind of meeting all the new guys and kind of being in charge of making sure everybody's getting along well?
Yeah, I think we have the most diverse room. Like all the other rooms pretty similar from last year, all the same guys, but our room is basically all new guys. For I think me, Derek, and Malik are the only ones who trying to, or Zach too, Coben. But there's a lot of new guys in there. There's a lot of diversity, and we're just all just growing with each other, just coming out here working and growing with each other.
A guy like Zechariah, a youngster coming up. What have you seen in him? Is he trying to work his way through kind of a veteran-heavy group?
Yeah, I like the way Zach's been coming along. I think he's starting to become more focused. I think he's starting to realize this ain't a game. You're playing with your future. Time goes by fast. You're gonna look up. You're gonna be a senior. So he's really starting to focus and try to play like a pro for real. So.
What's going to make 2025 a success? Obviously, you guys want to win all the games that you can, but for you personally, what other things can make the thing a season a success?
I think just winning as much games. I feel like losing hurts. Nobody likes to lose. I hate losing. If I lose at Madden or pool or something, I'm finna cry, man. So so just losing. Winning games, not losing.
Going up to Camp T in a couple of days, what are you most excited for to go back up there and kind of be able to go through that process?
Yeah, I really haven't practiced at Camp T, bro. The first year, I was hurt. I didn't play at all. I sat the whole season. The next year, I got my foot stepped on, so my foot got swelled up, so didn't practice that week. So I think this is gonna be the first week where I actually practice.
All right, so first few days as a Sun Devil in camp, how do you think things are going so far?
Pretty good. It's only day 3 now, so a lot of work to do. Just getting to know the guys, getting to know the people. It's a great place, man. I'm really happy to be here.
So how are the team, your teammates, players, coaches, how they kind of get you acclimated and welcoming you into the program?
Every guy here has been crazy good. It's a strong standard. And it's an environment you want to be in. It's an environment where everyone's competing, every position, everyone wants it, and everyone's after it every day. And it's every guy, you go up to them in the locker room, they're saying hi to you, and that's important when you're on special teams because it can be a bit different. But it's a change as well of scenery and everything. And every guy here's reached out and been nice to me and been great to me, and the coach has been fantastic.
So how does one make the trip to Australia? How did you get on the radar of Arizona State football, and how did you ultimately kind of become a Sun Devil?
Well, I got everything. I got to thank Pro Kick. Back home, Pro Kick Australia, John A. Smith, and then Chapman, and then obviously the guys I've worked with as well, Tim Gleason. So it's the whole everyone back home is the reason I'm here, and my family obviously as well. But yeah, Pro Kicks to be a shout. They trained me to do what I do, and so I just got to go out there and represent them and represent everyone else back home, and then hopefully at one point, I get out there and represent the badge here, because that's the most exciting bit, is playing games and competing out there.
Why was Arizona State worth making the trek across the ocean for?
The biggest thing I think is everyone sees it here, but Coach Dillingham, and the coaching staff generally, Coach Regal, everyone wants to be here. It's everyone enjoys it, everyone loves it. And I think for me, I'm someone that is real passionate. I want to love what I do. I love sports. That's why I made the change as well. I want to play sports at the highest level I can. And this gives me the opportunity to do that. And I love the passion here. Everyone, as I said, wants it. And it's just that, when you got a place where everyone wants to be here every single day, and it's not a job, it's a pleasure. You're grateful for it, then that's what you dream of,
So obviously there's been a legacy of Australian punters and kickers and special teams players in recent years. How on your radar growing up was American football, and was that something that you always wanted to pursue?
I love sports, so I was always looking sideways. It was always growing up, it was I played soccer, I played AFL back home, a little bit of everything, played basketball, all the rest of it, and then you kept an eye. I would always just watch the NFL, keep up with it, see who's going. I was a Packers fan from a bit younger, which is a bit random, but yeah, I always just kept up with it. And then the college football scene, you just kind of keep up with you kind of keep up with who was doing well each year and stuff. But then last year was the first year I really got into it and really was all right, dove into it. You're getting up at 2 a.m. to watch games and stuff. And time's a bit different, but it's and then you get over here, it's special. It's different. It's different from what you can ever imagine. It's a really special place. You can feel it. The whole city as well. You know, you go everywhere. There's the Sun Devils.
Yeah.
The Sun Devils everywhere. There's the badge everywhere, and I love that. It's just a dream.
So what's the scouting report on you? What kind of skill set do you bring as a punter?
I mean, I want to do a bit of everything. Like I can roll out rugby style sort of punt, and then my spiral is still strong as well. So I want to be able to do both of those. Whatever coach needs me to do, I'm out there to do it. I don't care what that is. Anything they need me to do, I'm doing it.
And then of course, working with Canyon, the incumbent, what's that rapport like? And obviously, competition typically brings out the best in each guy.
I think that's the best part is like you come into an environment and it's not like, oh, like here's your job, you just walk in and you just like take your time to get it. It's like, no, like I'm chasing his tail and he's a really, really good punter and he's really like showed me how the Americans do it, and it's good. Like that's what you want. Every day you're rocking up, it's competition and me and him know that, but also we get along really well. So that's awesome. Our whole team's really close and that's great. Because I can rock up every day and have a laugh and have a smile and then get to work when I need to get to work.
What do you want to show this coaching staff over the course of fall camp?
That I can punt. That I can punt it long, wide, whatever they want me to do, just to show them that they can have confidence in me and that I can do the job, because I know I can.
And what have you heard from the veterans about Camp Tonazona coming up for you in a couple days, going off the grid a little bit, roughing it?
Yeah, well, I had a cousin actually that lives out here, Adrian, and then his wife Carrie, and Carrie was ex-ASU alumni and stuff.
Nice.
And they kind of told me about it, and they're like, and all the boys have as well, and everyone says it's a good time, and you just get to get around everyone and get around the community as well. So that's really something that's going to be exciting for me. But as I said, my main focus is just the job. I got to get the job done. That's me.
All right, great stuff from both Jordyn and Matt, and also so much great stuff from Jordan Hamm. Jordyn, thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you soon in a couple of weeks when you're here in studio as we do our annual season preview and predictions roundtable. Put ourselves on the record. Maybe we'll have to revisit some of our good picks from last year. Maybe we'll throw some not great picks.
We had plenty of both last year, so and they became apparent pretty quickly.
So, and of course, you're doing so much great work covering ASU and other teams as well. How can the folks
Yeah, so I
keep up
am
with you?
at Jordan Hamm on Twitter, and you can find all of my work on Sports 360 AZ. We have a couple TV shows on local affiliates here, including Arizona Family Sports. So yeah, you can find me kind of throughout. We're doing a lot of fun features right now. You'll see one on a certain ASU long snapper coming up here pretty soon. So yes, doing profiles on Sam Levit and Jordyn Tyson and the big names are great as well, but we're also like finding all the cool people throughout the roster, and Brad does such a great job doing that as well. So that's where you can find me, and looking forward to jumping on in a couple weeks and what should be a very exciting ASU football season.
Yeah, I think our preview is going to have a little bit different feel to it than perhaps 1 year ago. So of course, make sure you stay with Jordyn and all the great stuff he's doing there. Make sure you follow me on all things social media at bdenny29. You can follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/SOTD Podcast. And Joe and I are thrilled to announce a partnership with our newest sponsor, Nice Pest Company. A Sun Devil owned and operated local business. It keeps your home safe with Nice Pest Company's family-friendly pest control. Let them take care of the bugs so you can enjoy a nice, worry-free day. And it's a nice day to be bug-free, and it's a nice day for you to take advantage of the services from Nice Pest Company. Follow them on social media at Nice Pest Company, and check out their website to get a free quote at nicepest.com. Make sure you're also supporting our other amazing sponsors, Jones Auto Group, Devil's Digest, Cactus Sports, Sun Devil Family Charities, and Burrito Express. And then, of course, stay with us next week as Joe and I recap week 2 of fall camp, including the Camp T scrimmage.